First over after lunch with Vivas to bowl to Boycott, who's not out 112, England 199 for 2. The sun shining at the oval, Titmus at the other end, 29 not out. England just 2 runs ahead. First over after lunch a maiden, and the next one, the second over after lunch, to be bowled by Bobby Simpson. He bowled 1 over this morning from the Vauxhall end. Very orthodox field for the leg spinner. Titmus is 29, facing Simpson. Two maiden overs after lunch. England still leading by 299 for 2 wickets. vociferous appeal. Bird's the fielder. 3 maiden overs running, and really I think it's time that England began to put the pressure on. Yeah, batsmen should have just got their eyes in again after lunch. Score still 199 for 2 after nearly 8 minutes after lunch. Simpson to Titmus. Score at lunchtime was 199 for 2. After 4 overs after lunch, the score is... Yes, 4 maiden overs running. Number 1 there is Boycott, and number 8, the night watchman, Titmus. That one turned quite sharply.
Come on, Boycott!
5 overs bowled since lunch, 5 maiden overs. England still 2 runs on, the lunch score 199 for 2, hasn't been added to. Six overs after lunch, all maiden overs. Extraordinary tactics by England, who really have got to push this score along really quickly. They need at least another 200 or more. Number 1 Boycott, number 8 Titmus, and it's Fevers to bowl to Boycott. That's the 200. These two now put on 80. just the one run off that over. One run of 7 overs since lunch. That run has gone to Boycott. Titmus the same as he was at lunch. Simpson to Boycott. He's out, caught by Redpath. A good catch there, low down in front of him. Boycott just pushing forward is out, and England are now 200 for 3. Boycott having just added 1 to his total since lunch. Caught by Redpath off Simpson. Ball turning a bit. Rather unaccountable tactic since lunch. Batsman just letting the bowlers get on top. But anyhow, fine innings by Boycott, his first Test century. Now we should see Colin Cowdrey. Got two quite happy faces there. Simpson talking to Brian Booth, his vice-captain. And there is Colin Cowdrey going out. Great opportunity for him. Cowdrey, who in the first innings made 20, looked pretty good, and then he was caught down the leg side trying to hook. He's been in tremendous form for Kent since he was last dropped from the Test match up at Old Trafford. What lies ahead now? Simpson to Cowdrey, Cowdrey's first ball. Viva's the fielder. Cowdrey looks a bit stiff after sitting up in the pavilion. Exploratory shot really. He'd been set, I think he'd have pulled that one wider for 4. Booth fielding it. Friendly full pitch. No, Beavers is there. Cowdrey off the mark, placing it between the backward square leg and the mid-wicket. Calling, fielding it. So England score. Just 2 runs added in 20 minutes since lunch for the loss of Boycott's wicket. Number 4 there, Cowdrey. Number 8, Titmus, who hasn't scored since lunch. And he and Colin Cowdrey having a little discussion now. And I'm sure the tactic simply must be to try and get runs much more quickly than this. Cowdrey then to face Beavers. This is Beavers is 29th over, 0 for 51, 13 of them maidens. Just pushing that down to third man. Brown Booth chasing. They'll take two. Cowdrey 3, England 203 for 3. England's lead is now 6. And he's pushed that one down past the square leg umpire. O'Neill's down there though. 1 run, Cowdrey. It seems to seeing the ball well. Now we'll tip the score off this, otherwise he'd have been in 25 minutes without scoring. He's had quite a bit of the bowling since lunch. Burge. So Titmus still hasn't scored since lunch. He got a very good 6 this morning off Beavers. And he also got a couple of 4s from Titmus. A lovely square cut, I remember. But since lunch, just nothing. Offside field complete there for you. And there's a man behind that at deep mid-wicket. Simpson to Cowdrey. The ball, as you can see, turning a little bit. Much Cowdrey, who Richie Benaud pointed out, is now putting his bat down behind his right boot instead of between his feet. Taking just outside leg stump by the look of it. Extra cover. Peter Burge, the fielder. Simpson coming in. Good one. Took his bat away, but it turned very sharply. Simpson coming in. Trying a typical stroke of his, which is really a straight drive in reverse, not a sweep. Perfectly safe stroke. Well, Cowdrey normally a fairly slow starter while he just gets his bearings, and then if he's got the will, sometimes he goes into a funny mood and plays slowly, but I'm sure he realises runs have got to be pushed along if England are going to have a chance of winning. So once he's had a look at the ball, I think we must expect to see some coming from him. Now I wonder what Titmus is going to do. 20 minutes since lunch, he hasn't scored, he's 29, facing up to Vivers. He could hit him straight over the top, but Bill Lorry is right out at long on. Right, there's a chap just out, Bill Lorry away to our left, rather wide at long on. Where of course if you swing your bat with the off spin it tends to go there. There he is, right out on the ropes. The boundary's quite a way in from the stand. Pad. And he's hit that one and it's going up straight, but Laurie will cut it off. So Titmus now at last has scored, and he goes up to 30. England 205 for 3. 8 runs off. Redpath. Six runs added since lunch in half an hour.
You'll get 4 for that. I'm pretty sure he just got an edge to it. $209 for 3. Titmus now has now made 5. 5 since lunch in just over half an hour. Well, the onus here seems very much on Colin Cowdrey to step up this tempo to the most disappointing rate of progress for England since lunch. Really disappointing. The fact is that Freddie Titmus doesn't play the leg spinner very well. I fancy his chance more against Vivers, the off spinner. It's Vivers now to Cowdrey. So in very nearly 35 minutes since lunch, England have managed 10 runs. Vivers has bowled 7 overs for 5 runs. And Simpson has bowled 5 overs for 5 runs and 1 wicket. And here he is again. And a great obligation now on Freddie Titmus to swing his bat and keep things moving. I think he really must. That is, if England are thinking in terms of victory at all. I must say, anybody coming into the ground now, without looking at the scoreboard and unconscious of the, not knowing the general situation of the game, would think that England were fighting for their lives, playing for a draw. Just tend to get a little bit too close to Simpson when he moves out to him. A wry smile on Grout's face, wondering what it's all about, perhaps. And that's not 4, it's straight to a man. Neil Hawke. 1 run, 210 for 3. 35 to Titmus. 4 to Cowdrey, who's been in now for a quarter of an hour. So I think we should expect to see him playing shots more forcibly very soon.
Hello, Brown Johnston here. Welcome back to the Oval, where you see Titmus facing up to Vivers. Titmus is 37 not out. The other end, Cowdrey 16 not out. England 224 for 3. And the batsman out. Boycott caught Redpath, Bill Simpson for 113, just adding 1 more after lunch to his maiden Test century. Number 4 there, Cowdrey. Number 8, Titmus, who came in at 6:10 on Saturday night. And that, I think, just hurt Vivers' finger a little bit, stopping that one from Titmus. And some very unaccountable play since lunch. The first 6 overs after lunch were maidens. Then there was 1 run off the next and a wicket in the next. Titmus has been in now for about 52 minutes since lunch, and he's just added 8 runs in that time. Dennis Compton sitting alongside me. Can you understand it, Dennis?
Well, I suppose I can understand it, but I can say this, Brian, that it's been a most unsatisfactory session since lunch, since 2:10. Titmus has scored only 8 runs in 52 or 53 minutes.
This is Simpson bowling to Cowdrey, and this is Simpson's 12th over, and he's just taken 1 for 10. At one time he bowled 6 overs and 5 of them were maidens.
And of course, when they came out after lunch, Jeff Boycott was bogged down with Simpson and by Vivers. No, they've certainly got to hustle it on very much quicker than this. This is bad batting, and I'm sure they haven't been told to play like this.
Notice Simpson's gone round the wicket for Titmus. England are just 28 runs on, and Dennis was saying at the beginning of the play, and I think most of us thought that 300 today was the sort of score they ought to make. Actually 300 runs added on to the 132 they had at the start. Well, they have to get going pretty well to get that now. Titmus been batting for 2 hours and 3/4, nearly 2 hours 50. did hit a 6 and 2 4s this morning, but since lunch he's looked very unhappy. And Kenzie at mid-off. A lot now depends obviously on Colin Cowdrey. This is a chance for him to play a great test innings. He's been feeling his way a little bit, but he had a nice stroke off Vivers, which must have made him feel confident. He hit him right over his head up over mid-off for 4. He's 17 not out now. He came in at 2:30, so he's had a good look at the bowling now, and we'll see whether he can put the pressure on a bit. Still with those two men close in on the leg side, Mackenzie and Redpath, and it's Vivers coming up for his 36th over. He's had 65 runs scored off him. O'Neill being moved round a little bit squarer behind the square leg umpire, just out on the ropes. England still have, of course, Barrington and Parfitt and Parks to come of the regular batsmen. And surprisingly enough, it's been a very pleasant day here. Play did start quarter of an hour late this morning because there'd been drizzle, but it's a lovely afternoon now. No, straight to Burge there at mid-wicket. Maiden over to Vivers, 36 overs for 15 maidens, 0 for 65. England leading by 28, and there we have Colin Driver, the 12th man, Peter Parfitt, who will be in one after Barrington, who's chewing there in the middle, talking to John Price, and selector Willie Watson, looking a little bit puzzled perhaps. And it's Bobby Simpson coming up for his 13th over, 1 for 10 to him, to bowl to Titmus.
One I know has to give credit to the bowlers. Simpson has bowled extremely well with his leg spinners, and so has Vivers, but any loose ball he's bowled, he's got away with it. They haven't been able to hit it for 4.
Like that one.
And that's not 4 either. That's straight to Peter Burge. I beg your pardon, Vivers. But he's had about 3 full tosses, Titmus, and he's got too close to each one of them and hasn't scored a run off them.
O'Neill the fielder there, cover. No, that's again gone straight to the fielder. Peter Burge, extra cover. No, he didn't get hold of that one either. Once again, Vivers stops. Another loose ball. Another maiden. 13 overs, 7 maidens, 1 for 10. I'll ask Ross Salmon how many maidens there have been since lunch, but in exactly 1 hour, England have added 26 runs. When the object surely must be to score runs quickly. Number 4 there, Cowdrey. Number 8, Titmus, and there have been 15 maidens in 1 hour since lunch. Out of how many overs? How many? What? How many overs they bowled in an hour? We'll check up on that. Anyhow, Viva's coming up for his 37th to bowl to Cowdrey. And of course the new ball could have been taken a long time ago, but Simpson stuck to the spinners. They bowled 24 overs in an hour, which is a wonderful rate. Of course, they had the 2 spinners on, and 15 of those were maidens. 1 run. 18 now to Cowdrey. England leading by 29.
Ever since they put Bill Lorry down at deep mid-on, or back right on the boundary, Titmus has gone into his shell. They put him back there, immediately hit Fevers over the top for 6.
And he's tried the game, but luckily didn't quite get hold of that, because he went straight to Lorry. If he'd really got hold of it, might have well have been a catch from the pouch out there. 38 to Titmus now, 227 for 3. Going just for Norman O'Neill missed side, just going for 2 runs. He was looking in the opposite direction for it. Not always easy to see against the crowd there.
That reminded me of Joe Hulme in the old days, running after a sparrow which he thought was the bird, was the ball.
Did he catch it?
Well, he was quick enough to do so. But in fact, the ball went out onto the boundary, and Patsy Hendren at slip, dear old Patsy, said, "There you are, Joe, there it goes." And there was a dark object and off he went after it. He found it was a sparrow.
He's probably still running, I think.
The ball had already gone about 5 minutes ago at the boundary.
Simpson now coming up for his 14th over. Bowled to Titmus, who's 38. England leading by 32. No, you just can't time it at all. Mackenzie, the fielder, it looked like a half volley. Dennis, you were saying before lunch how nice his bat sounded. It hasn't sounded so good since lunch. Burge with extra cover.
It's certainly the same bat, and it is a very good bat, but he's out of touch. And he's hitting it everywhere but the middle.
Simpson going over the wicket. No run there. Calling the fielder. Calling again, coming in from mid-wicket. Ball turning, but that was well wide of the off stump. There's only now 3 hours and a quarter left for actual play today. Well, that's 195. They scored a run a minute. We still wouldn't be in a very strong enough position. And he's hit that one. That's gone down to the boundary there at long on. So he goes up to 42. Timed that one all right. That's Titmus' 4th 4.
Yes, unless we do push this scoring rate along very much quicker than we are at the moment, it's going to make it awfully difficult for our other batsmen to come in. Barrington, Parfitt and Parks. We now lead by 52.
Yes, I beg your pardon, because the actual play is 2 hours 55 actual play, because there's 20 minutes for the tee. Redpath taking evasive action quite rightly, but Cowdrey didn't hit it. So it's even harder task they've set themselves, England, to get sufficient runs in the bag. This is Beavers' 38th over. Well, that got through. They're standing pretty close there, those two, and so that Mackenzie couldn't get down. There's O'Neill running around behind. 2 more to Cowdrey. You can see there Redpath very close. 22 to Cowdrey. And Mackenzie just coming up. There he is. You can work out how keen you'd be to field as close as that. Brian Booth fielding. 2 runs off that over from Beavers. This is the oval where play has been abandoned. There's been no play at all today. This 5th test therefore has been drawn, and congratulations straight off to Australia on not only winning the Ashes but the series as well. It rained all morning here. It did begin to look a bit finer during lunch at about 1:30. The sun was shining. It was announced umpires would go out again and look at 2:30. Then suddenly down came the rain, and 5 minutes later it was announced that this further rain made play impossible. So the England overnight score just stays as it is up on the board there for the time being. 381 for 4. Number 4, Colin Cowdrey can't complete his century. Number 5 there, Ken Barrington. And England just in the lead with 184. A disappointing series, there's no doubt about that. The first 2 matches, Trent Bridge and Lords, both ruined by rain. A good win for Australia, outplaying England at Headingley. They won there by 7 wickets. The run glut at Old Trafford, both sides making over 600. And now this very disappointing game here at the Oval. The teams at the moment are having champagne. I don't quite know what they're celebrating. Anyhow, they are drinking champagne. The Oval is deserted. No one was allowed in today except the members, and it's altogether a very sad end to what has been a very disappointing series. Look at that. Drip, 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 drip. So that's all then from the Oval at the moment. The game has been abandoned, and Australia have won the Ashes and the series. So for the time being, goodbye from us all here at the Oval. Well, here you see the only man who's really smiling at the Oval today, Bobby Simpson. Congratulations, Bobby, on the Ashes and the series.
Thank you very much, Brian. It's a wonderful thrill for me now that the series is over, to know that we have won the series, retained the Ashes, and taken them back to Australia again.
You came here reputedly as the worst team ever to come from Australia. What do you think of them yourself?
I think they're a great side at present. It was rather misleading, I think, they'd have called us the worst team ever to leave Australia, because we had some very, very fine cricketers. And the younger players have developed so much on this tour that now I think we've got the makings of a very, very good Australian team indeed.
Do you think in point of fact you're better than England?
I think over the series, Brian, we have been in general play, yes. I think we've managed to bowl England out for less totals than they have us. We've managed to, important, get them out in less overs, which has been a big factor, and the batsmen have got runs when we needed them.
I'm afraid we've looked at it as rather a dreary series. What have the players felt about it?
They've found it a very good series to play in, I think. The friendship between the teams is very, very good. I know the press have been a little bit critical in this regard, but from general observations from the public, they seem to have been quite happy with the series. And this is who we've really got to please anyway.
Well, Bobby, anyhow, many more congratulations on the Ashes. I hope you now have a very nice, relaxing time for the rest of your period in England.
Thank you very much, Brian.
But it wasn't the worst Australian side ever to come to England. It wasn't even remotely the worst. Simpson's side now go back to Australia. with the Ashes, with the series, and it's another 2 years before England have the chance of retaining or regaining them. It's been rather an odd test series in some ways. 3 of the games have been absolutely ruined by rain. At the moment behind me you can see the 5th test pitch, drenched and soaked, the game abandoned for the day. The 1st and 2nd test matches were ruined by rain when results were possible. There was a wonderful game of cricket at Leeds, one of the best I've seen in all the time I've been watching cricket. The 4th test match at Old Trafford became a batsman's match on a pitch similar to the ones used before the war, and there was no conclusion there. The real conclusion that I've drawn from the series is that England were slightly the inferior side, not by much, and it seemed even at the beginning of the 5-match series that there wouldn't be a great deal between the teams. This proved to be so, and it was the one that could grab their chance when it cropped up. It would finally get through in the series, and that's exactly what happened in the Leeds test match when Burge played so well and the Australians fought back. Now, the bowling attacks of both sides left little to be desired. England failed to get through the Australian batting often enough. The Australians, with their younger and more hostile and more virile trio of Mackenzie and Hawke and Calling, were able to do this and were able to keep attacking England. And I think that overall the Australians played possibly the more positive cricket in the series. I think Australia deserved to win. As I say, there wasn't a great deal between the two teams, but any edge that was there seemed to be Australia's way in most of the matches. Now, from this moment on, England, I think, will have to rebuild. They'll have to try and build up a side in South Africa that will be capable of taking on Australia in 65-6. The Australians have to rebuild too. They shouldn't rest on their laurels at the moment. They have to play the West Indies next year on the West Indies' own home pitches, and this is rather a treat in store for them. It might not be so much of a treat when they come up against Hall and Griffith and Gibbs and Canai and Sobers at the peak of their form under their own favourable conditions. Simpson deserves a special word of congratulation. He's done wonderfully well with a team that everyone, the critics, Australian and English, had blasted and said had no chance at all of either doing well or of winning over here. In fact, they've done both those things. They've done well and they've won. Simpson deserves the congratulations, the team deserves the congratulations, and I suppose in the end the weather has had the last word.